I was half expecting you to be in your budgies.
Yeah,
I thought we talked about the idea that we're going to do this in the Thames or somewhere.
I'm so sad. So I read the chat thing. Oh my gosh, we're going to film this on the water.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. I was waiting for like some diving kit,
time.
another thirst trap video from Justin. It's all going to be great. And then I was like, no, we're doing it.
We're in the studio today. Ladies and gents, welcome to another episode here from the studio. I'm super excited about this one. I'm joined by two guests to give it a little bit of colour, a little bit of expertise, a little bit of flavour. Emily Marsden.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Tim Green, good afternoon.
Hello, Justin.
You will know Tim and Emily from the channel if you don't know them personally. So today, guys, we've got a really interesting one. We've got a few Blancpains on the wrist. At least we have had them on the wrist. We've had them on the wrist for the best part of a month. And it sort of came as a result of they've had a few novelties in the last few years, right? 2-3 years ago, they had a 70th anniversary for the 50 Fathoms. I was taken back by a post I made where a lot of people were really loving the 50 Fathoms. And I thought, because of their collab with Swatch and that feedback, it could be interesting to try, like literally road test some of their 50 Fathoms. And they were very, very kind and they were very welcoming. Now, I've got to say this from the start, guys. This is Blancpain helping us out by basically saying, take these watches out, give it a shot, truly come back, do a film and tell us what you think. And in the luxury world, in the luxury watch world, that is rare. They are saying, go and enjoy it and let's be honest about it. So here we are, and we're going to tell you our thoughts. 3 different Blancpains from the 50 Fathoms collection. Let's kick off, guys. Let's kick off with Blancpain as a brand. Because I am genuinely fascinated. I'm not sure I have any answers as a result of the journey, but I'm genuinely fascinated because it is one of the oldest brands. It is a Swatch Group brand. Where are we, Em? Where are we with Blancpain? What are your thoughts?
Blancpain is, and I confess, when this sort of opportunity, if we'll call it, came around, I tried to go to everything with a sort of positive tint, and I just knew nothing. All I knew was they were a brand that existed, that had this great heritage, but in my personal watch collecting journey, it's not something that had ever grabbed me. So for me, I walked into it like, okay, I knew who they were. I knew they were, had deep history in terms of what they've developed, but I wasn't exactly sure where they sat in the contemporary market. However, having it for a month has allowed me to sort of deep dive into it, but that's where I was at. Really honestly, I just wasn't in that ecosphere.
Has the collaboration with Swatch, has that done anything for you, do you think? Has it done anything for the brand?
Has it done anything?
Big question, probably an episode in its own right.
Let's talk about that. Look, okay, my whole take on the Moon Swatch thing and on the Blancpain version, I only think it's a good thing to democratise access to icons. Not everybody can afford 5, 6, 7 more, and we've sort of normalised that as like an entry level. That's not true. So I think it's wonderful that kids, that adults get access to these watches. Has it done anything for me? I'm not offended by it. I was tempted by the all black version, but in my collecting journey, there's no place for it. So maybe it's a positive in that it opened me up to thinking about this almost not to say forgotten brand that I wasn't that aware of. So yes, for me, it was positive.
I think it's fair to say, Timo, that basically the Swatch portfolio has been underloved for a few years. And let's talk, we're not here to talk about Breguet, but Breguet would be the one that most people reference. Like, amazing brands with true lineage that have not been loved over the years. But seemingly, in the last year or two, things have started
For
to
Blancpain,
change.
I think absolutely. They seem to be a little bit more creative than most other Swatch brands. And I think that's really interesting. But for me, Blancpain, the golden age of Blancpain is in the 90s, where they did all those really, really cool sort of Villeray style dress watches with minute repeaters and, double split chronograph. Yeah, all of that. Oh my gosh. Like, that's the stuff. And so that's always been where I focused my energy on. I have got one of those Swatch ones, just because I collect watches like I collect white. I've worn it a couple of times. Yeah, I've worn it a couple of times. It's a little bit too big for me, but I quite like the aesthetic. So I was really interested to try a proper 50 Fathoms because it's an icon. You think of the dive watch and where to go, and we get asked this question quite a lot at Subdial. I'm looking for a dive watch, but I don't want to go for a Rolex Submariner. What else? And the first thing that comes to mind is a 50 Fathoms. It's got a very strong identity, and the quality is very, very good. So I've never really spent much time with it other than the Swatch. I haven't really spent much time with that, but it's in the drawer, and I'm really happy to have spent some time with it. It's a great watch.
We should say here that actually the UK team, were kind enough to basically say pick a watch from the website, and so we all literally picked our own watches. So we have gone for different watches, which I think's gonna hopefully add some spice to the conversation. Tim, what did you go for? Give us your brief on this first.
Yeah, well, I have been so interested by the 38mm since they released it, not so long ago actually. And well, if anyone gives me sort of carte blanche to go for whatever I want, I always sort high to low in value. And that was the dog, I think. Anyway. So I went for the rose gold, and part of the reason I went for the 38mm rose gold is I've long been a fan of the Patek Equinaut in rose gold with a brown rubber strap. I think it's a great combo. Also, the thing I really like about this watch is that it has a mother of pearl dial, and in doing so, they've taken away the 430 date, which is something that I'm not a fan of. I'm just not a fan, and I think dive watches don't really need a date. I don't think you're down there 50 metres below and you're thinking, gosh, I wonder what I'm doing on the 24th. Yeah, I better go back up.
By the way, I've done, but we won't talk about that now. On a honeymoon, that's a side note.
So I wanted to try the size because I like smaller watches. I love rose gold, and particularly with a tropical strap, it's awesome. And I like the stone-esque dial and no date. So that's why I chose that one.
Is it not completely bonkers to think you'd have a rose gold dive watch? We're talking about a watch that has legit 1950s, early 1950s.
I like bonkers watches
with the Submariner for true Lineage.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, there are a few people are doing that now. Even Rolex have done a solid gold deep sea, which is just bananas. I don't think this is really going to be used as a dive watch. I don't know. Maybe they are. I don't know.
Touching on the Lineage, it got me thinking this morning because I knew we were coming to film this. Why is it that Rolex went on to be Rolex, and Blancpain sort of went on to be Blancpain? Because the 50 Fathoms and the Rolex Submariner is so deeply ingrained in us culturally as a dive watch, and yet it's not a dive watch. It's a cultural statement. It's a cultural design signifier.
Yeah.
The 50 Fathoms is not. Now that could either be cool, which it is for me because it's less obvious. But it never went on. The brand never went on to do what was.
I think the Rolex is slightly more safe in its design, and I think Rolex are the kings of marketing. It's those two things, is my opinion. But I think the 50 Fathoms is a really, really striking watch. It's a very, very good design, and I love it in rose gold because you get the contrast on the bezel, and I think it really complements the mother of pearl dial. It's a good watch.
We're all in this, I think, for similar reasons. Without speaking for you both, I think we're all in it for experience, and we are past the days of talking about stats anymore. I think we don't want to see any more articles out there with more stats, more specs, more. We're in it for experience, and therefore, Em, I want to throw it to you and say, what was your experience like wearing that watch? How did it make you feel? Because irrelevant of price, which we're going to come to, and irrelevant of design, whatever. That is the one thing people, I think, and us as buyers, we want to know. What did it feel like? How did you feel putting that on every day?
So first of all, love the distinction in the sense of, because we make videos. I think when people perceive it, you're sort of confused as maybe it's some sort of media thing. It's not your real opinion. We are real collectors with real opinions. I put my own money in my own pocket to buy my own things. And I went into this really honest. I remember saying to you, hey, sure, but I'm going to have to really formulate and be honest with you. So really good timing, got this before I went away for 3 weeks. I took a break from work, so I had no laptop, no Slack on my phone, no like Teams calls. And I really disconnected from life, which meant I lay on a beach, which meant I was in the water every single day, which meant I have to cover myself in Factor 50 every 5 minutes. So I was really just consistently living the life that I actually never normally live, wearing the perfect watch. So the first few days, It's the only watch I took as well. I didn't take any of my
You
personal
should
watches.
tell us, forgive us, you should tell us what you got.
Oh, yeah.
At some point.
Also, that 38 in steel. So I did the same as you. I was like, should I ask for the tourbillon? I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I was like, imagine break. Because I was like, I don't break that. Anyway, so I wanted to go as pure as I could go, and I toyed with the bigger, the 41. But actually, I thought size-wise, perfect. I actually notoriously wear big watches. 41mm is kind of my jam. So for me, this was perfect to try something a bit new as well. So watch came. Off I went, and the first few days it was a bit of a whatever. I don't know if you found this, the loom is nuts. That loom and the type, I don't know if the type font's the same on yours.
Yeah.
There is something about the slightly bulbous nature of it that I hadn't experienced before, and I found myself literally like showing people. And I was like, I don't do
Carrying
this
around a
anymore.
loom torch.
No,
I literally did that this afternoon to Nat, my wife, and she couldn't have been less interested. I literally ran up, sprinted up, and said, "Look at the loom on this thing, this is mad." She was like, "Yeah."
No. So I did the same. I was playing golf, and then it was really, really dark, and then it got light, shocking. And I was like, "Look at this, guys!" And everyone was really interested, whether they were just, I got trashed by a 94-year-old woman, so my ego was on the floor at this point. But anyway, so I lived the life of what I felt gave the watch justice. And at the start, it was kind of cool. It's cool. I love the strap. I love the design. The movement, I think, is really well finished. You flip the thing over, and you get a sense of, like, this is cool watchmaking. But what happened by the end of it was, maybe because I'd been through this emotional experience with the watch, this sort of leaving my job and whatever, I felt really attached to it. So I've really had to sit and think about why. It's actually still got sun cream, and I've cleaned it about 4 times. I'm sorry, it'll be clean by the time you get it back.
See, because it's quite nice to. Whoa,
Good
gosh,
grief.
there we go. Testing its shock resistance. It's always quite nice just to see what it looks like size-wise on the rest, the different angles. Yeah.
But I just think it looks great. It just fits, and I've worn it with all kinds of things. So anyway, the summary of it was, by the end, I felt deeply attached to the watch. And there's a whole bunch of reasons that go into that, but the key thing was the experience of wearing it. I jumped in the sea, I played golf, I went out for dinner. I just didn't matter what I did. I lived the thing. So I felt really attached to it. I put it on the bedside. The John Mayer Talking Watches, the very first one where he talks about sometimes it's just me and my watch. It's like on the bedside. I really felt like that. I was like, I'd see this bright loom in the morning, and I loved it. So I really now attach that to it. Kind of a metamorphosis in my own life as well, which, if we're honest, that's what watches are. They're a storytelling device to yourself, and that's kind of the marketing that goes with it. So I'm sad to see it go. Yeah. And I never, in a million years, thought I would say that. Never.
That's interesting.
And not a penny has been traded for
No,
that.
this is
not
completely...
a penny has been traded for that comment.
Not at all.
Okay, thanks, Em. Right, so should I go to the elephant in the room? We've got this big boy here. You can spot it from outer space for so many different reasons. This is the 50 Fathoms tech. This is the tech, guys. This is the tech. You might remember this, and so I referenced the anniversary earlier. So 2023 was the 70th anniversary of the 50 Fathoms, so a year or so ago now. And the second act, there were 3 acts, and this was the second act. And this was what Mr. Hayek said, and I'm going to paraphrase but get it entirely wrong. He sort of said, if we were to design the 50 Fathoms for the modern age now, what would it look like? How would it behave? How would it feel? And this is what they came up with. 45mm. And this integration is entirely fresh. So this case is entirely new. The block lumen over on the dial is entirely new. This super absorbent black dial, which gives it a bit of extra pop, is new. We were talking about the feeling and the sound of the crunch.
Is good.
Don't ask me the details on the ball bearing system that's new to this. Ceramic bezel.
Oh, I thought you summed up on it.
But it's a ball bearing system.
We all do.
Yeah, I mean, this feels expensive, I'll say that.
Yes.
Very, reassuringly
adverts for
expensive.
VW when they just went with the sound of closing the door, I think. And it was like, can you make a watch? Is that important? To me, it is. Like, you play with the dive watch bezel and you do want it to feel...
It's a key part. Playing with the bezel is a key part.
So there were 2 models. There was the second act, the Gombassa, which was a lot bigger, and it had orange markers. This now just has really bold luminova, so no 14 or anything, which I was pleased with. Then there was an Ocean Commitment model, which was slightly different. Either way, I think this integration is really nice. It's quite organic, and for a large watch, it sits quite nicely because of that that there are no lugs really now. And they tell me that it was designed because of this quick change system, which let's see if it is really quick change. Here we go. There's absolutely no training that's gone in or practice, but it is genuinely. And the IP involved in all of this from the different brands is significant. They spend a fortune trying to develop something fresh. But this is interesting because yes, it is a system for changing the strap, but actually what it does to me is it gives it a whole look. A bit like the Royal Oak, on a strap where you see the lug integration, or the Nautilus without the strap. It gives it a design feel to it.
Yeah.
And I saw the boys in New York from Wrist Check Podcast who wore this in like street style photography. Like shout out to those guys because they were wearing this like in a proper shoot, and it looks like a design statement more than a professional diver statement. Because these watches are professional diver statements. And this thing is literally like, okay, it's got an open case back, but the thing is meant to be hardcore. Mr. Hayek's a hardcore diver. He wanted to make something hardcore diver. And I feel like a hardcore diver when I put it on. That was my feeling. It was like, shit, I'm not a diver. I'm not going diving.
That one.
Thank you, sir. I'm not going diving today.
I think it's six.
I'm not going diving today. I love orange. It's
a great colour. It's a great colour. Can I just clarify with you? They designed it for the modern day diver or for the modern day leisure wearer? You say, what would it look like today?
I believe because he is a diver, a hardcore diver and photographer, he wanted something that was legitimately a dive watch.
Yeah.
So this should be used by divers. Now, we know most watches...
that's fine. But yeah.
I think it's 300 metre water resistance.
Yeah.
It's rock solid as a dive watch, no doubt. And this super absorbent black feature, the bezel, the fact this is now part of a new collection. So the 45... Yeah. So we've got the Bathyscaphe, we've got the 50 Fathoms like this, and we've now got this, the Tech, which is in its own right, the hardcore elevated collection.
Yeah. So they've really stuck to sort of three sizes now, haven't they? 45, 42 and 38. And it's interesting that we've gone to extremes because, I'm wearing this today because it's my favourite 50 Fathoms. It's a 40 millimetre and it's a size that they no longer make. I still think that's the benchmark for me. But 38 does wear surprisingly well. I think it's worth noting on all of these is actually because the lugs are so short, when you try it on, it sort of feels like a 36. It really wears like a 36, which isn't a bad thing, but it makes this less tool-like and that like absolutely spot on.
Is it the case that when we were looking at watches to choose, every watch I wanted was limited?
Yeah.
Because the limited are nuts. I really think they're great. They do something with the design that they get perfect. I think they're all, the limiteds are 40 mil. You can get 40 millimetre versions of it.
Yeah, they don't
you can't in standard
The
production.
Barracuda. Like the Barracuda.
Yeah,
I think you picked the Barracuda, and this is the Hodinkee limited edition that they did, which I think everyone out there agrees is a banger for a number of reasons.
Absolutely.
This is steel, right? This is steel. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. This is actually, I should say, a titanium, but it's not a Type
23.
It's a Type 23. It's a special titanium, which is hyper-energetic. It looks great. I love titanium. Did you like how that rolled off the tongue?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I love titanium, and it's super comfortable and light. So anyway, titanium, steel. But we all agree that based off of a vintage reference, is an absolute banger. Primarily because there is no date.
Yeah.
And primarily because the Blancpain logo actually is missing from the side.
What do you think of that? Was actually, when I passed this around to my friends, that people just don't understand why Blancpain is written on the side. Is there a historical nod there? Is there something I don't know?
To my knowledge, the original ones didn't have that.
Didn't have it, okay.
It would have been quite strange, I think, in the 50s. Like, this really was, like, Rayville, the US sort of distributor, were sort of sometimes referenced on the dial, and Blancpain was sort of the maker, and it really was a tool watch. I mean, it really was. And legitimately, there's debate as to whether it came before the Submariner or not. I'm not entirely sure, but legitimately there is. So
what's cool about that, though, is that the both founders at the time were actually just both divers and friends. For me, I find that story, it is kind of a whatever. It doesn't matter. We get so hung up on it. It's kind of like the Explorer 1 story. We know it's not true, whatever. But actually, if you just take both watches, they're both great, made by really passionate divers for their own hobbies at a time when we didn't have digital watches. That is the watch you're buying. Like, who cares? It was in months of each other. They're both just great watches. That's it. In different leagues, different reasons. But I think there's a really beautiful thing when you just remember the two guys that designed them or that made them were friends that just loved diving. And they solved the problem. That's cool. That, I think, is a more interesting story.
What we then should ask is competition, Tim Boy. Like, if you're in the market for a 50 Fathoms, like, what are you also, because you're speaking to clients the whole time, you might not want, say, a Submariner, but is the 50 Fathoms sort of the only option? And what are we thinking as far as comp goes before we come to price as our next two port of calls?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because there are lots of alternatives. at different price points. And particularly when you look at my one, which is £29,000, I think not a lot of people are going to be buying the rose gold in order to dive with it. So it becomes slightly more jewellery-esque. And I think at this price point, then you're right up there with the sort of rose gold on Oyster Flex Daytonas. And that's probably like the direct competition for someone that's thinking about this watch. Although this is a slightly more modest size and it's just a little bit more interesting. But if you were going diving, I do think that Rolex is the obvious choice. And so most people will take that. You know, in terms of liquidity, Rolex is like having a gold bar in your pocket. You know, if you're on a desert island or whatever, you can give a Rolex to someone and they'll give you a dinner. There's a saying in there, I've totally forgotten what it is, but the essence of it is that. Whereas Blancpain doesn't quite have that brand strength. But a lot of people these days, particularly in London, are looking for alternatives, something that's not so obvious and so obviously liquid, you know. That gives you a little bit of, it speaks to your character more.
One of the great mysteries in the world of watches is production numbers. Most brands don't like talking about it. I've established that the Blancpain production might be somewhere between 20 and 30,000, although we don't formally and officially recognise anything. But is there not an argument to say, and I know we are contrarians in our views on what's cool and what's not, the oddball stuff is just more interesting. Would you not feel more comfortable wearing this than anything modern from Rolex?
Yes, yeah. For a number of reasons. Like, it's not as cliche, and for someone like me who meets lots of people, if I were to have something that was just an obvious watch, I don't think it says enough about my interest in watchmaking. So wearing a Blancpain does that. It's why I like that sort of neo-vintage period of Blancpain Villeret. Because a lot of people look at those watches and think, it's a Blancpain. I'm like, no, this is a serious watch. Like, there's a lot you don't know when telling me that, it's a Blancpain. So I like that. I love that conversation. It's like the Ralph Lauren watch that we talk about. You know, my favourite conversation is someone that's like, it's not a proper watch. Yes, it is. But, you know,
and you've got an opportunity to sort of convince them, actually,
exactly.
don't know this. And,
exactly, put them in their place a little bit. So, so I love that about this. And I really would like to own a Blancpain 50 Fathoms after wearing it for so long. But I do think this is the one that I'd go for. And I know you were talking about the benefits of this one, so the changes, but the one thing you didn't mention that I think is probably the most important to me is that they've gone away from the hex key spring bar fixing, which I love to change straps on my watch. I've changed it on this. I bought a brown and a grey tropical strap, but every time I needed to change it, I needed to go to my workshop and ask the guys if they would kindly get the tool out and do it for me. Whereas this, I can get a Virgin and just have a go at it myself. And that creates lots of different wearing scenarios. You might chuck it on a NATO, you might chuck it on a tropical, might even, if you're going out for dinner, put it on something leather. But I like that. I like that a lot. That means a lot to me. And if you're spending lots of money on these things, I think it's nice to have the versatility. And sadly, this doesn't have that. But maybe I'm the only one that thinks that way. Quite probably.
I've got this watch box here, this full of straps. Or not even a watch box, the whole Perspex box full of straps. So we are absolutely aligned in the fact that it's... And actually that's what gives watches longevity in some ways, because you can change the character when you sort of need a lift and you need to think about holding onto it for a bit longer. You like give it a new strap and it feels new. The one thing we haven't touched on yet, guys, is the fact that these all have open case backs and these are all in-house calibers. And of course that ties in with the fact that... Sorry. Does yours have an open case back?
It's got an open case back, but it's a movement by FP. But
okay. So
selling as a base,
heavily adapted.
Yeah.
Because we are talking about a haute horologie watchmaker here. Did you like that pronunciation?
Great. Yeah.
What do you think of that? And is that important to you? Like, we've got machine finishing there on the caliber. You know, this is not sort of high end hand finishing. Do you want that with a sports watch anyway, like a proper sports watch? And then how does that play into the pricing, of course?
Gosh, you leave me with that one. Right, brilliant, thanks. So let's start with the concept of haute horology. When I saw it on the website, I struggled with, because in my head, haute horology is the artisans that are hand polishing, hand finishing, hand beveling, like it's a very specific, well, it's not specific and it's not very well defined, but in my mind, it's probably not something that's mass produced. And it's certainly not something that is largely machine done. That's just my opinion. It's not a well-defined thing. Do I need it for a watch like this? I don't at all. But coming back to something you said, which was, there's maybe like a crazy sense of ego, but once you're a collector, you kind of want, it's the first thing somebody knows about you is, oh, what's on the wrist, right? And if I'm wearing, even if it's, I don't know, 5167, like, in my head, I'm like, oh, people are going to think I'm so boring, you know? Even though it's objectively a cool
I've got some money and I bought a nice watch.
Yeah. So, and actually what the Blancpain was this really cool flip on the script, which was, when people did, especially my friends that are collectors, they were like, what? Where's this come from? And it was quite cool to be like, hey, here's why I've got it from. Well, it's not mine. But because I felt coming from a place of defending it, and when you have to defend something, you have to go learn, and you have to experience it. So I think Blancpain has a lot of credibility. I think the finishing is great. I think the quality is there. And even when you wear the thing, it's easy to defend. I think, you know, the bezel, awesome. The lume, awesome. The dial, great.
The rock solid feel of it.
It's,
in hand.
I felt like I could, I mean, I have bashed this thing around. Really, I haven't, it's fine. Apart from the sun.
Let's not say that.
Bash in the sea.
Next minute, we're in it for
in the sea, in the sea. There's just sun cream on it, that's it. But that'll wipe off, Yet, I say all of that with, I want this watch, really I do, but it's £15,000. I struggle with that. I struggle with £15,000, if I'm honest.
There's a lot of competition.
By the way, I'm just under 20, so I'm 19.5, just for some comparison here.
Yeah.
And so you are
29, obviously.
29.
They come with the most expensive one.
Sweet tooth.
It's a great age as well, 29.
Yeah.
It's a great age. It's a great vintage.
It's Em's birthday very soon, so if anyone wants to send her a cheeky Nautilus in the post,
My
then feel
birthday's
free.
the 26th, it's next week, so Blancpain, it should go out before then, and just don't pick it up, that would be great.
And the interesting thing about pricing, and we all get caught up on it. I mean, almost as much as we get caught up on date windows in the watch world, we get caught up in the world of pricing. No brand is exempt from feeling that. No launch is exempt from feeling the heat right now. I think everyone's got
inflation sitting quite badly, isn't it?
It is. It's tricky, right? Yeah. It's tricky. Yeah. So I think we almost have to say, hey, the market says, you know, the market dictates that, you know, and I would say, while it's not easy to sort of compare this to the Rolex, and the Deep Sea would probably be the natural comp for this, which is say like 10, you know, just over 10 grand. I would actually argue this is closer to an overseas from an experiential perspective, or even an Odysseus.
This one for sure.
Yeah, even an Odysseus.
Absolutely.
We've been talking a lot with a friend of ours about an Odysseus recently, and it got me thinking. Actually, people are sort of throwing out there, you know, the likes of Tudor and the IWC Aquatimer and Rolexes, but actually I think this is a different category to that. I actually think it's much more into that sort of Vacheron category and the Lange category.
I totally agree with this. And the movement on this, I have to say, is absolutely brilliant. I really like it. Yeah.
3 barrels. You guys only have 2.
We only got 2.
You were talking about straps actually, Tim. I should defend mine actually, my 45, and say that quick change system allows you to have fun with the coloured straps. We've seen that from other brands, and probably a few years earlier, but that's the fun part of that, is how quick and easy the strap is to change. Now that system integrated in some capacity into these new lines would be appreciated, I think, and enjoyable.
I do like that about the overseas actually. That's a bonkers system. It's so good, so appealing.
That's way more secure than the Vacheron system in my mind.
Okay, that's it.
Particularly, there are some people that do it really well. The one that I get stuck on is, I don't mean to badmouth anyone, but Chapek. Chapek, you put that on and because it's hinged in the middle, it's really quite wobbly and it feels like it might come off. That doesn't, and that's exactly what you want from a dive watch. The last thing you want it to be at the end of the bottom of the ocean. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm running out of air.
You see the old video from an Australian sort of scuba diver that's ripped up an old sub from 50 years ago that's still ticking but covered in barnacles.
Yeah.
Next minute there'll be a bathyscaphe.
So that really does need to be secure on that, and it really is. 100%. But it's quick and secure.
I do like that they've stuck to that vibe, the feel of, you buy this. So I've had so many DMs when I posted on my story, like, oh my God, like, I love the brand. Or there was this one guy who owns like 100 of them. I've never spoken to him before, but all of a sudden I was like, okay, that's really interesting. They've got a hardcore following, and the hardcore following isn't interested in making it less rugged to make it more wearable. They like that it's it is a hardcore watch, and that I didn't quite appreciate. And it sometimes does take you to meet real fans to go, oh, I didn't see it like that, or I didn't know that. And there is something about this that screams like, fuck, like, I'm going in, I'm buying it. This is the thing. Like you said, it's not falling off at the bottom of the ocean. I can live a life in it, which is undeniably cool. It's undeniably cool.
The date window, by the way, I should say at 4 o'clock. You and I both got our date windows there at 4:30. But they're colour matched, and actually, weirdly, and I'm pretty obsessive about not having them either, because it really, any little detail that I find is enough to put me off entirely. But I have to say, I didn't think about that when I put this on. I was actually more thinking about the blocks of the numeral and the batons, because they're such a design statement. They're so bold and unforgiving in their presence. I also should say, years and years ago, I did a film where I reviewed Submariner and IWC Aquatimer and the Blancpain Fifty Fathoms surfing very, very poorly in Snowdonia at the fake wave, the artificial wave. And what struck me back then, and struck me again about this time, is the sheer boldness of the bezel. The 50 Fathoms bezel is so different to the Submariner, and so much cooler. Much cooler.
The use of sapphire for that is really, really cool. It makes it feel very high end. Okay. Did either of you set the date on your watches? Yeah. You did?
Yeah.
I didn't. So I didn't.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Did you?
I don't have one.
Oh, of course.
Well, that's why I chose it.
It is. There is something. I saw something once where it's like, I love Panerai, but if you have anything other than just time only, it ruins it for me. That really allowed me to start thinking that, I get it. There's a purist element to all of this, which is don't need a tourbillon at the bottom of the ocean. But then
Quite cool though.
I get it. So I'm actually more on that side of things, which is like, why are you acting like you bought this watch for its function anyway? How often do you look at your phone instead? Like you almost have to apply that logic throughout the whole chain then, and you realise it's a bit of a flawed logic. Sometimes it's just cool. This whole hobby is irrational. Collecting is deeply irrational.
It is.
So actually, when you boil it all down, if you find something and you love it for the purest version of it, which is something I've now developed with Blancpain, is it is cool. Like you said, you take all these design elements and you go, that's actually objectively cool. The story's cool. The history's cool. Something I love about the Hodinkee is the consistency on the hours and the batons. I actually don't love it when you have a mixture. It's not something I personally like. And I have a real philosophy of delete. Like if you can remove something, remove it.
I think that's the philosophy that Hodinkee typically use on their limited editions, is get rid of stuff you don't need.
The early stuff.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I can't tell what's wrong.
Like there's that. Sorry, I'm getting stuck. The Oris where they deleted the rotor, made it manual wind, but it's still a screwed down crown. That's quite funny. But on this one, I really do think that they thought about it really quite deeply, and they've come out with
They did another one as well, which was really nice. I actually quite like the combination of the markers on that one. You might remember No Date as well.
Yeah.
But 38, I think, as well. Side. Quick set date on here, by the way, and hacking seconds, just to be clear. So you are getting a little bit. You're getting a little bit more for your money there.
Yeah, I just wish this had hacking seconds. It's one of the things I look at. But Patek only did that on their Nautilus about, 5 years ago or something like that, 6 years ago. So,
do you want hacking seconds because of the price, or do you want it because you want the feature?
Because I think the feature's really important and it shows good watchmaking, and if you're spending £30,000, I think it should be there. Right. That's my point.
So if you're buying the steel version and it was, I don't know, £8,000, you still want it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a precision thing.
Omega do it.
It's good watchmaking.
I mean, everyone does it, pretty much.
The overseas didn't.
Well,
am I right in
so
saying
that's
time only? That was quite controversial.
Yeah,
Time only,
but I feel the same way about
third
one of my Piguet. I think that's not acceptable. Certainly for a Holy Trinity brand, it's just not.
Final comments, guys, before we close here. So we're going to miss these, are we? We're going to miss wearing these? Is it fair to say?
I do. I like it. And I put a black top on today, and now it kind of just pops.
I was half expecting you to be in your budgies.
Yeah,
we talked about the idea that we're going to do this in the Thames or something.
I was so sad. I read the chat thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to film this on the water.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. I was really fired up. That's why I followed up.
You can't see Sam's face filming this. Is like, what the hell was he going to bring? And how is this going to go down?
I was ready for it. I was ready for like some diving gear.
Next time.
Another thirst trap video from Justin. It's all going to be great. And then I was like, no, we're doing it.
We're in the studio today.
Part two.
All right, guys, listen, thank you so much. No doubt there's going to be some commentary, and we welcome that. Each and every one of us will respond to every single comment with something incredibly considerate or offensive. We're not sure. We'll see. But, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we have. I mean, I certainly feel like it's been a treat to wear the thing. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, guys, as always. Until next time.
Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.